Why, hello everybody. Yes, that's a zucchini. And this is the mid-August garden tour. I need to get that big zucchini off of there. I'm going to have to tell you, I was going to have to be honest. It's just, I've got more zucchini than I know what to do with, and I need to freeze some. I just keep picking them and picking them. And this year, I've had such a bumper crop. They have just been all through here. I can't even see them. I know they're in there, but they have been all over. Maybe I picked some of them out of here, but everywhere I look, there's a zucchini hybrid in here. Let's see, and where did it go? Oh, it's back there. See, it's white. And then here, oh, there's another hybrid. Look at that. These are seeds that came off of the zucchini that is growing in my garden. So because of that, they're not pure. Now, even so, the seeds I got may be only one generation pure. So as I keep them, you don't know what they're going to grow into. So that's what happens when you keep your own seeds. But you know what? They taste just as good. There's another one there. Oh, they're all over. Even the plants over there, those came out of zucchini, and they do not look like zucchini. We'll walk over there in a minute. But everything is going good. I hope everything's wonderful with everybody. But everything's going good. The garden's going good. Hopefully the garden will be, continue to go for many, many, many more months. If everything works out, our cold weather won't kick in until December or January. But, it's been changing, so we'll see. There's the tomatoes. We've got so many tomatoes, it's unreal. Tomatoes everywhere. So we've been doing really good with tomatoes. I haven't done anything in here because that I could start seeds in. This way no squirrels or anything will get in there if I don't want to use tool. I do have tool, as you can see. All around all my stuff back there. Got some zucchini actually growing in the wood chips here. There is no soil in the front yard here. This is a blacktop parking area, and Gary had wood chips dumped here. And it's finally starting to break down, and look, it's actually growing. I'm covering it so the rabbits won't get to it. If it really takes off, I'll probably put some tool around it. But there's probably only 6 inches of any type of soil, let's say, compost here, because it's literally, let me step back. That's what it looks like. It's blacktop. So there is no native soil or anything in the front yard, just wood chips. So it'd be interesting to see how that works out. Maybe I'll be growing straight into the ground. That'll be really cool. Anyways, red Vein Sorrel is doing good. It's coming to an end on the seeds. I have not collected any seeds yet. They're falling, but I have been tossing them around, so they're going to come up everywhere. All in all, the front yard's doing okay. I mean, we're getting quite a bit of food out of the front yard with the tomatoes, the dinosaur kale, celery, of course, that's all going to seed. I don't need to take the celery out. If I cut it, it will grow back, so I'll see. Or I'll let the baby celery grow and see what else. And that's about it for here, so let's keep walking. But everything is doing good. Of course, the mint, the little fig tree, that little one that was a cutting off of one of my fig trees, that one hasn't grown any figs yet. Probably not till next year. And here's the tool that was set up back in March and April. I have not had to touch it. I have not had to fix it. I have not had to do anything. Look at all the food growing in those cement blocks. I've never been able to do that. And that little bit of tool, I'll hopefully remember to link the video that how I did this in there. But that small, cheap tool, not even $10 worth. Oh my. With the way it costs, $10 for, what is it, 54 inches wide, 40 yards. And there's maybe $1 or $2 worth of tool here. That has saved all this. I've got green sorrel growing in there. I've got mint growing in there. I've got garlic chives and onion chives. I've even got some dinosaur kale. I just stuck in some pieces. Look at this. It's coming through the top. This was a cutting. Look at that. That's coming through. Walking onions in there. There were some flowers in there. This has been growing really, really good. And that's the purple tree collard. I put it there. That's doing really good too. I hope to get that in the ground later this year. So that tool has changed my life as far as keeping, any squirrels out, rats, rabbits, everything. Nothing has touched it. It's worked perfect. And there's the chair. Suddenly, I can't find chairs on the side of the road. People are not throwing their chairs away. I want to get some more chairs. Look at this. I love this. I am going to set up so many chairs all over my garden. And that, I cannot stand when I do this. I put some seeds there and I thought, well, I'm only going to put some seeds and then I'll transplant them out and I'll remember what it is. I don't. It's probably pepper because it does not look like, no, it doesn't look like tomato. So it's probably pepper. It's probably baby bells because I had some and I wanted to get some of those growing. So this has worked out perfect to use this as a seed starter, and then I can dig them out and move them. But don't, do as I say, not as I do. Label them, then you know for sure. Look at this, my popolo's coming up in here, and there's more popolo back there. I think I saw some more too. I've got stuff coming up in here. I think this is sprouting broccoli, or it might be regular broccoli, and then collard and stevia. So stevia loves it here. I've got a tomato plant that's starting to take off. I'm layering. I've got a pot here with walking onions. They were baby walking onions and Swiss chard. It's just been great. There's garlic chives in there. I cannot wait to get chairs set up. I did a whole video on this. Anybody can set up a small garden on a chair. You don't have to bend. You just walk over, you service it. I've got this here, a coffee container growing lettuce in the middle. I threw a cutting in from another dinosaur kale. There's some dill coming in there, growing in the center. And then of course I showed you how I put a little piece of plastic there. There's only holes on this side, so it runs right off into that pot. And then I can catch it and I can water anything I want. You know what I did with a lot of this? I'll show you what I did with a lot of that water, the runoff. And remember, I threw kitchen scraps and everything I loaded in here before I planted. The squash over here was not growing. They were small. And I took the water and I started taking it off from the side of the chair. And when I started dumping it into this squash, this has just been loaded with zucchini. It just took off. Because what you're doing, especially the way I set up the chair and it had all the kitchen scraps in there, I was creating basically a compost tea, plant food. So it has worked great. So I'll just sometimes grab that whole bucket and just dump it straight in there and I don't even dilute it. It's been really, really good. So I'm excited with chairs. I've got to get that chair out too. That's holding my blueberries that I need to get planted. So I haven't done anything with that. And here is again, last year's tomatoes are going so good. I can't believe it. This is last year's tomato plant. It's the whole thing that you see up there is coming off of this one little stem that's still taped with masking tape from last year. And then I put the other stakes up and it just keeps going and going. That's the only tomato plant that's growing up on top. So funny. And then this is another hybrid zucchini I was telling you about. I thought it was a zucchini seed. It was not. And there's the other one. I have noticed that when the zucchini hybridizes, you end up with fruit that's usually a whitish yellow. So that's how you know. But they're still good. I've got to get this one off. This was interesting because it's not going to grow at the end. This plant, I should say, is basically done. I did put a small traveling compost in place container. I've got videos on how I do that next to this plant. And it didn't take off because they both stopped here. So what I did with this one, I can't really get in there, is I put a full tub that big and I sat it in there with something on top, and I put a whole thing that size of kitchen scraps, leaves and everything into this one. And this plant suddenly rejuvenated and it is taking off. So size does matter. It was more, look at that, it's got fruit already. It was the amount of food, and squash are very, very heavy feeders. So that worked out really good to put a larger container for squash. You don't have to do it with some of your other plants because they're not that heavy feeders. But being that they grow so much, look how big the fruit is. I mean, this is huge. They do need a lot more food, and it did work out better. So I will have to remember that for squash, give them a bigger container. It's worth it. even though I wanted zucchini, not that, but oh well. But that is really cool. And a lot of you might say, like, these are beautiful. They can see I have powdery mildew. Let me tell you something. I have not had an issue with powdery mildew. A lot of those out there do have powdery mildew, the squash on the leaves. That's because I come out in the evening. That's when I have, most of my extra time. And I enjoy myself by going through and hand watering. If I get the leaves wet, and like today it's been a foggy morning and it's still damp, it will grow powdery mildew. These leaves, as you can see, are up in the air, so they're not getting wet when I water. But the ones that are lower down get wet and they get powdery mildew. I do not personally treat for powdery mildew. The plants are all producing with or without. If the leaves are really bad, all I do is cut them off. Just cut off the bottom leaves. See, they're turning brown, but just cut them off. Compost them, get rid of them. I have tried to treat with the different remedies, that I have seen on YouTube and different places, and I end up killing most of the plant off. So it doesn't seem to work for me, and it doesn't hurt the plant. All those plants out there that have powdery mildew are producing fruit that's unreal. I've got one out there that's probably close to 10 pounds I've got to get off, and then I've got tons of little fruit on there. All of them. They're all producing, powdery mildew or not. If you're feeding it, then they're going to continue to grow. The other thing I have noticed on powdery mildew is it also seems to set in when the plant is getting close to end of life. Because remember, squash are not like tomato plants. Tomato plants, they've got some that go 10 years. But with squash, it's a matter of months and they're done. So when they get towards the end of life, I've noticed they will grow powdery mildew. The plant is weaker. There's not much you can do. It's time to either, if it's getting close to winter, thinking about spring and planting in the spring. If it's still warm enough, just start planting new squash. This is my ginger, turmeric, and stevia table, and it is doing great. We've gone over this over and over. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? I bought the plant once, and it dies back in the winter, and it keeps coming back. I guess it set seed because they come up everywhere, and they come back from the roots. But this is my stevia. And of course, you can always tell turmeric. See how big the leaves are? This is turmeric, and this is ginger. Ginger's tall, skimpy, but that is it. And then there's my black turmeric. Let me get this uncovered so you can see it. Isn't that pretty? It's a very attractive plant. It's got stripes on the leaves, and this is black. You've seen it. I have the really two little tiny pieces, but look how they're spreading all over, so it must be getting really big under there. We'll peek later on in the season. I don't want to disturb it that much. The rest is just regular orange type turmeric and then regular ginger I've got here. But here is this one, and I've talked about this one over and over. I put a bunch in from the grocery store, and there was a growth inhibitor on it of some sort. At least it wasn't irradiated, because if it was, it would have been dead. And this is as big as it's going to grow. But I've talked about this too. It's not a total loss because it's alive, which means next year, when it dies back in the winter and it comes back in the spring, it should be stronger. And you can cut it up and plant pieces in different pots. So if you've got that issue, don't worry about it. It is not a total loss. But that's it. Look how beautiful they grow so differently. They're so beautiful. Anyways, that's it. Here's another tomato plant growing, and I've put some stakes there to stake it up. And then, of course, this is peppermint. It was a teeny little plant, and it's turned into a great big bush. But it's in a container. It's not going anywhere. And it's perfect. And we use a lot of peppermint, and we use chocolate mint. And then as well as, what is the other one we use? We use orange mint and spearmint. That's the ones we really like for our teas. Okay, now we're going to go into the main garden. So we're in the main garden, and this is the mess that I left. Remember I said that all these tomato plants came up and they were volunteers, and I'll just let the strongest survive? Oh boy, they all survived. They are so full of tomatoes, I can't believe it. And look at the coloring. I'm going to see if I can get you around on the other side. Let's see if we can find the best coloring, because this is interesting. This is a volunteer. A volunteer is when you don't plant it and it comes up on its own. See the coloring? the purple, and then it kind of turns that orange with a little bit of black as brown. The same thing with all the tomatoes in here. There's more purple down here. See the purple? Well, I now know that this is a hybrid from the Midnight Snack that I grew last year. I bought 2 Midnight Snacks. There was one in the front yard, and then there was one on the other side of the yard. And somehow, either I squeezed it in here, a tomato, or a rodent carried it in and dropped it in here, but all these plants grew, and they were quite happy. Oh, believe you me, they're happy. And look how beautiful. But it's no type of certain species of tomato. It's a hybrid, but let me tell you, it's good. And when you get a plant come up in your yard like that, and look at the size. I know there's a bunch of them in there, but look at this. It went to the ground. I strung it up yesterday, but obviously it's still trying to grow down, and even this piece is broke here, and it's still growing strong. Even broke, it's still hanging on. When you get something like this and it's happy, you've got the best tomatoes. You've got the best, healthiest plant, because the plant grew where it wanted to grow. It found the perfect situation, the perfect soil, the perfect everything, and it just takes off like this. This is perfect. So I'm going to let it do its own thing, and when it starts to die back later, if it does, I'll trim it back. But this is not the way it was supposed to be. But it's just gorgeous. I think they're beautiful, and the tomatoes taste really, really good. We've been taking the tomatoes off. I picked a zucchini out of this yesterday, and then I've got some cucumber back there. I can't even get into this. What a mess. And then I've got more squash growing back here, and I know I saw a squash on it. It's somewhere, and there's another squash. You can see that back there, another zucchini. And then I've got oregano in the back. I'm slowly trimming out a lot of the dinosaur kale. I don't want to take it out, but I need to control it, because what I want to do in my garden is I want to be able to move around. So it's getting there. You know, it's a work in progress every day, and it's good because it gives me something to do and get away when the days are stressful. Isn't that beautiful? This is that container I made a video on that I was just going to throw things in and then figure out later where I wanted to put it. Well, I've been growing squash out of that. Let's see what, and this is a tree collard cutting. Look at that. Look how nice it is, the stem. I put some tulle around here, and this is going to grow into, who knows, a 10-foot tree. What I'm going to try to do is possibly line the whole garden with them. I am fascinated with tree collards. Isn't this beautiful? Look at the coloring. Look how blue it is. This is my plain old dinosaur kale. Now, this is a cutting that I stuck in the pot. Oh, look, I have an onion that I stuck in the pot, and they just took off, and they're beautiful. And yes, they do look healthier than the parents in the back, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to trim a lot of that, back there too. I've got lemon verbena back there. I've got more tomatoes that I did plant, one plant in a pot sitting on the ground, and it's doing really, really well. I've got another tomato here. See the seeds from the dinosaur kale? I leave those for the birds, because the goldfinches come in, little bush tits, even the house finches, they all come in and they love eating the seeds, and I want to make sure they have enough food. I don't collect the seeds on this. I just let it do its own thing. Of course, walking onions and red vein sorrel, just a little bit that I broke off of the one I'm growing on the other side of the yard, and it grew really, really good too. Let's see, what else do I want to show you here? Let me swing you around slowly. Nothing new. I am going to change some things up this week in here. I've got a mushroom plant back there that's not getting any sun anymore. That's the mushroom plant. And it will be getting sun as now, we're still in, of course, the middle of August. But as September comes, it'll get a lot more sun, and then it will be happier because the sun is starting to move back. Since this is a south-facing garden, and once it moves back, it will get a lot of sun. But I need to get the mushroom plant away from being under that giant lemon verbena. I can show you one more time. See how big it's gotten? And though it will die back in the winter, and I can trim a lot of this. If you want to trim it and do cuttings and get more plants, you go with as woody as possible. See how brown that is? If you take a fresh cutting like off of here, it won't root. But when you take a woody part and you just stick it in some soil, they'll root. I'm not rooting any. I don't need any more. I've got it all over the yard. But I want to get that mushroom plant out. Okay, let's keep going here. These tomatoes are doing really good. Look how beautiful they are. And I use both. I use this yarn I picked up at the dollar store. I like the color. And I still use my masking tape, as you can see. So I use both. So everything here is doing really good. I don't think I need to waste your time with this. The sprouting broccoli, the purple, that is pretty much done. The birds have eaten the seeds. And so I've kind of left it. And I'll trim that down. And the leaves will get really big. And we can use that for juicing or soups or anything I want. It doesn't matter. We'll be using that. Oh, some water features I'm experimenting with. It actually works. Of course, it would work better if I can find where the solar panel fell. This is my new, I will get a video up on how I'm making this. This is my favorite holder. I'm going to get rid of all those wire things, get rid of this foam thing. This is my favorite holder, and I will try to get a video up this week or very soon on how I make those holders because they're fantastic. Anyways, and they're free. So that's a good thing, pretty much free. All right, back here, tomatoes, that one came up as a volunteer, so I've left it. We'll see how that goes. All those in there came up as a volunteer. Let's see what else. And the sun is just coming out, so some of these are going to start going on. And there is my rock. Oh my goodness. I sat here one day for hours, a couple times, could not get a bird in that bird bath. And then I'm out here yesterday or the day before working in the garden, and I've got my camera set up as I'm just trimming my tomato plant behind me and working on things. I turn around and the whole thing is full of birds. That little rock bird bath, they just love it. I actually stuck a branch in there too. I don't know if it really made a difference or not, but I threw a couple more rocks on there and oh, they love it. And here's another one, punch bowls. Think of it as punch bowls. Go to the thrift store. They're amazing. You can get punch bowls for like $1 or $2. Big glass punch bowls or ceramic ones. Let's see, this is Dazzling Blue Kale. This one you can see is about 8-9 feet tall. I am going to trim that a little bit, but I'm not going to trim it down. I happen to like them tall because see all this? This is all places for birds to sit. This is a tree for them. And my garden is different. My garden is basically like a food forest. I don't have to do anything in here anymore if I don't want to. The plants will reseed in the spring. I may not get all the plants. I did not grow peppers this year because I didn't buy any and I forgot to plant seeds except for what's coming up in the front. So it basically reseeds itself and comes back in the spring. But I do enjoy going to the store and looking for different things. So I'm still doing a little bit of that. But I like it when it gets that big. And look at all the leaves. They're going to come back bigger and bigger now that the seed heads are pretty much gone. And once the seed heads are gone, then the plant will concentrate on the leaves. So I'll get big, beautiful purple, blue leaves off of it. But, that's my thing. And some people don't like that. They like to grow like Dazzling Blue Kale and Dinosaur Kale and Curly Kale and Russian Red Kale and all those different kales. They like to grow them, including the collard. This is a collard. And they like to take them out. Once the plant gets a little tall, they get them out. And then, of course, they want to plant new. And that's fine. That's what makes your garden so wonderful, because you can do it the way you want. Look at this. Walking onions coming through the plant. It's not going to do anything there. See, now if it was left here, this would die. Eventually, it's going to come loose from the mother plant, which is way down there. And it will come loose. This will dry up. And then if this sits here and it doesn't drop into the soil, it'll die. But I've been collecting them. Here's some more. Oh, they're all over in there. I've been collecting them, and I'm now setting up like a little nursery. I didn't do that last year, so most of them did dry up, the ones that didn't fall to the ground. And this way I'll have a whole bunch of them, and then I can move them around the yard anywhere I want to put them. Again, more sprouting broccoli, and of course I got it all through there, but the leaves are really small because it's still producing seed. As long as it's producing seed, see, it's still trying to produce seed up there, then the leaves will be small. But if I went through and chopped it all off like a lot of people do with their basil plants, take all the flowers off, then it will put all its energy into the leaves. But it's okay because I really want the birds to have enough food. And this place is covered, I would say hundreds, but I'm going to have to say probably thousands of birds. Since I now found out we can have anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 hummingbirds in the yard at one time, especially if they're migrating through, I don't know. We've got so many birds, I can't believe it. So I leave it, and the birds do come and they do feed on that, and they'll chew up the leaves. See what they've done? That's not insect damage, that's birds. They eat the tender parts, and it's fine. I've got so much. Look at all the good stuff underneath. So let them do their thing. There's that curry plant. That was interesting. I just saw something on Gardener's World, I think, where the lady took some of the leaves and she made a solution out of it to spray her plants to get rid of some beetle. We haven't even eaten it, but I found it once at a nursery, and I thought, $3, I really like something different. It's edible. Looks like rosemary. And I bought it, and I like having everything pretty much edible. So it was interesting to see that. I don't have the beetles she had, but I figured I still, it didn't matter. I like the plant. I like edible plants. I like trying different things. We've got potato mint now we want to start growing. Okay, celery. That was a red celery. Isn't that something? It lost all its color. I don't see any red on it anymore. Maybe at the joint? No, not even at the joint. So it lost its color, but oh well, it's still good to eat. And as long as I leave all the seeds on, and a lot of the little birds eat it, even the hummingbirds pick off pollen, it's not going to produce really much of anything. We use a lot of the leaves, actually. The leaves on your celery have more health benefits than the stalk itself. But of course, if you're making potato salad or something, or stir fry, you want to use the stalk. So once you let it go to seed like that, you don't really have much to use as far as eating. You can use the flowers as well. And celery seed is so expensive. You can collect that and cook with that too. So it depends, but I don't take it out. I let it grow back when it's done. More tomato plants, more walking onions. There is my big field of collard that's in the back, but as long as I'm letting it do its seed thing, the leaves are going to stay really tiny. See how tiny they are? They're really small, but that's okay. As soon as I trim that all back, that plant is going to just take off. I'm in no hurry. As you can see, I've got more greens than I need. Greens! This is what people have to grow. Everybody needs to grow greens. $5 on sale for 1 pound of mixed greens. I saw that at the store the other day. $5 for 1 pound. And there's nothing in a pound when they pack it up in a plastic bag. I don't even know what they've done to it, to be honest, because there's a lot of things they can do to it, and it's still considered organic. But I couldn't believe that. That's why greens is the easiest thing to grow, and you can just keep growing it, and it's the most expensive, pretty much, that to buy. There's my lemon balm. I add that into different teas and different things too. This is still in the original pot, but it's taken off. It's left the pot. Sweet potato, again, I've talked about that. I didn't plant that. It just came up. And again, celery and different things. Like I said, I'm still working on the garden. And here are the pepinos. They're so heavy, they fell over. I've got to restake them a little better. But you can break and snap a piece off, and they grow so easy. Gary snapped a few pieces off, and he told me they rooted in a matter of a few days. But they're full of fruit. And I've already picked some, and I'll show you some at the table. And these I just picked. Funny looking cucumber. It stayed too long. And here's the pepino. Oh. And the pepinos, when this gets soft, it'll be real sweet like a melon, or you can use it like that as a vegetable. You can cook with it when it's hard. So you can use it kind of like a cucumber when it's hard, or keep it and let it get soft and eat it like a fruit. Here I am, middle of August, and I'm still trying to figure out where I want to put what. This is the red vein sorrel that I just dug in and pulled out some and planted it on the other side of the yard, and that's how you do it. You just take it from the bottom and stick it in some soil, a pot, and it will take off. See all the baby collard coming up now? Look at that. That's from the seeds that are falling in there. All that back there on the bottom is all collard growing from this collard plant. So that's really cool. If I want to keep some of it, I can move the babies, and if not, I can collect some seed and start it in the spring. This one too, that's Dazzling blue kale right here, but the problem is, again, it was full of seeds, so the leaves are really small, and it's also in this layered pot, which is not causing any problems, but it was a 3-layer. It's kind of collapsed a little bit, but that's okay. When I water that top in here, no matter how hot it is, I know this plant is getting water. So that works out really good, but it's huge. I didn't control it. I could have controlled it and trimmed it and put it on a stake and grew it like a tree, and I didn't. I let it go twist around, do its thing. But it's producing such beautiful purple leaves. But once all the seed heads are done, the leaves will get bigger. So that's really cool. And then I've got squash and stuff, I believe, growing in here. Yes, there's a zucchini. And here is one of my buckets I do. I compost in place in here, right from the garden. I keep throwing in there. I water. There's holes on the top. There's holes on the bottom. There's holes all over, so the worms can go back and forth in that bucket. It's worked out beautiful. And if I want, I can take that bucket and move it somewhere else. But it's doing so well. I've got 2 squash growing now that I'm going to leave it. Yes, this is corn, but this was my mistake. It was an impulse buy. Look, I actually have corn. And one of them's sprouting. That was so bizarre when I looked in there. I bought it when it was already almost 2 feet tall, 1.5 feet, and that was not the time. If I wanted to grow corn, I should have done it like I did once before by seed, and it was already stunted. I stuck it in there, but that's okay. So I'm going to pull it all out and compost it, and I don't really bother with corn, but who knows? I change things up, maybe next year. Yes, that's the tree colored. Look at that. Easy 10 feet tall. Look at the amount. There's 2 tree coloreds there. Look how big it is. It has not gone to seed, which is good. I don't want it to go to seed. I am taking cuttings and putting it all over. It's just amazing. Oh, look at the eggplant. See the eggplant? It's coming back. That's my old eggplant from last year, and I've got some new eggplant growing in there, new plants. They haven't started anything yet. There's another eggplant there. Here is some purple kale. Isn't that gorgeous? And it's just so big. And that twists around all over. But look at this. That is on the ground. I got a lot off already. And I've been doing cuttings, but I'm kind of leaving that right now. I might actually let it set root right there and take off. That would be really cool. Just throw some soil and stuff on top. Let it set root. It's still on the mother plant, even though it's broke. See, it's still on here. But if I cover that, it can set root, because a lot of the collard behind me did. And then I can leave it there, maybe protect it a little bit, and then let it grow here, because this is really a good spot for it. And then see, there's the other one growing back there. This one's just leaning. Yeah, it's purple on the stem. Isn't that cool? But this is green. This is not purple. It's probably how they made the purple. They found some with purple, and then they started producing those. And then here's some collard coming up in a pot. I did not plant it. Isn't that cool? That's nature. It fell. It liked it, and it stayed there. Okay, let me get out of here. I climbed in the back. But this one snapped too, and it's laying this way, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to trim off. But I want to do a lot of cuttings off of that. That is such a gorgeous plant. That is just beautiful. And this is the collard that's dropping seeds all over. Another dazzling blue kale in front of me, and that's the other purple broccoli that is still producing seed. That's why the leaves are so tiny. Again, produce a seed, tiny leaves. But this is the field of collard, and that's the one that did produce seeds. See, there's still some seeds on it over there. You can see the seeds there. And that's what's falling all over and starting to grow in different places. That's really, really cool. Oh, back up real quick. See if I can do this without making you dizzy. Let me swing you around. And this is, again, the chocolate mint. And I don't know what kind of cucumber that is. I got to get it off. I think it was some Japanese cucumber. Isn't that cool? Kind of got a little sunburn, turned yellow from the sun. It's got to come off. Everything here is the same as it was last time, but this is a lot of baby walking onions. And see how they're coming up real small? Even the smallest of the smallest will grow on baby walking onions. So keep that in mind if you're growing baby walking onions and you're going to toss something out that's like really tiny, like maybe even smaller than that. Don't toss it out. Stick it in soil, because I found out even the teeniest ones will grow. It's really, really cool. Okay, let's go back. So what else is going on here? Papayas. Gary's been picking papayas off his strawberry papaya, and he's so excited. Oh my. These have to be close to 15 feet tall. I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew they were tall, but it must have just got a growth spurt on it. Wow, it just took off. But it's still in the pot. And of course, we did drill holes on the bottom, and so the roots have set into the soil itself. See how the roots are? It was in a pot. Again, we did not plant this. Came up in the compost. Gary had been eating strawberry papaya. This tree's only just over a year old. That's how fast papayas will grow. Just over a year old. And then there's my moringa. Isn't that cool? And let's see, there's not much else in here, so we can take off and go into the other yard. Here's my strawberries. And they've been throwing little strawberries right now, probably because the weather's been warm, but they're still going. And another tomato plant. Gary fixed my fence. I used to have all that, I don't know what you call it, just kind of done quick to keep things intact in the yard. And then Gary decided he's going to just put up a fence. So now I have a real chain link fence. He put the shade cloth up. And he said he's going to put some roll bars so the coyotes won't come in here. I don't want the coyotes to come here. And that's been a problem, is they can come in. I haven't seen any in my garden, but they can come in. So that's the garden. Let's see, real quick, nothing else here to see. I'm going to make sure that, no, this is just mint and really haven't done anything. It's old, and that's that. All right, let's go into the backyard, which I really haven't done anything, so we should be almost done. So now we're in the outside of my garden in the very back. And Gary saved the soil for me that came out of that blue tub that was crumbling away. Remember, I had a big blue tub there. I grew some cucumbers last year and a few other things in there. I found it in the trash broken, and I still insisted on duct taping it and using it. And I did grow some stuff, but he said while he was working on the fence that it was pretty much done. So he threw it out, saved the soil, and I'll see what I'm going to do here. Maybe I won't do anything right now. Here's papayas, the big ones. Aren't they gorgeous? Again, he just keeps picking and picking. Look, there's more new ones up on top. Papaya is amazing. I brought my daughter over a little 1-inch tree. Literally came up when I was planting some stuff around here, and I saw it and put it in a paper cup. And I said, just leave it in the paper cup and just stick it where you want. Even when you want to transplant it, don't worry about it. It's going to leave the paper cup. And a week went by and she said, oh my gosh, they really do grow fast. She says, how big will it be? I said, oh, by next year it could be 10 feet tall. She didn't know that. But her neighbor's got some. Her neighbor's growing them in his yard. So they're doing really good there. And he's loaded with papayas. So she should really start getting a lot of papayas. I got to get her more trees, but she doesn't want any more. There's the one I moved. It was really small. And I just dragged the pot here and I buried the pot. So it can do the same thing that all the others have done. Just break the pot and leave. And it is doing great. Some of you are asking, why do you leave it in the pot? I could put it in the ground, but the thing is, they don't seem to get enough water because we get so hot here. And by leaving it in the pot, when I water that, I know it's getting enough water. It will go directly into the roots. And just the way I do things, I don't know, but it seems to work. All these are in pots. Any of them that we ever put directly into the ground, something happened to it. Either a rabbit ate it, or who knows, a squirrel, or it didn't get enough water. But the ones that were in pots, keep in mind that big one, they're all in pots. Were they planted in there? No. Generally, they come up in my compost, and then I don't have the heart to kill the tree, so I drag the pot out here and just leave it. Celery, and then again more, of course, this is just more papaya. So let's go over to the wall, and I've done nothing. So again, I have done nothing for the wall. I stuck in the zucchini, and it is loaded with zucchini, as you could probably see. There's zucchini in there, there's more back there, and there's a bunch of small ones, but I haven't done anything. I was going to tool it, and I never did. I put the stakes there. Kind of ran out of time. I mean, by the time I'm done in my garden and planting things, there's really nothing to do here. So this is all totally wild. This is celery growing. No maintenance on this, only by hitting it with water. There's walking onions. There's my moringa. This is Swiss chard seed. Look at all the seed. It's just going to fall and go everywhere and reseed itself. Okay, this is just sow thistle for the birds. Gary left it. Look at all the eggplant. Oh, I got to get that off. That's beautiful. I saw a rabbit with one the other day. He probably pulled it off with the ones that are growing on the outside. But again, this is last year's plant. This one came up by seed. I never even planted this eggplant. Came up last year and it stayed there all winter, and now it is just loaded with eggplant. Kind of a whitish eggplant. Look at that. Isn't that cool? But again, I have not done anything. Now, I am starting here. This is going to be a hybrid because it's my own seeds. But as I brought in zucchini and it sat for weeks, the seeds got hard. So when I took the seeds out of the ones that sat, I just threw them in here, literally just threw them in here. So I've been slowly composting in here, and they're all starting to grow. So maybe I'll get some late zucchini in the winter, and that's what I'm hoping for, because the wall is warm. So it should really help to keep all those zucchini, all those squash plants growing. And that's what I'm hoping for. So we'll see what happens. But all of these now have some sort of squash. It's supposed to be zucchini, but again, it came off of my own plant. So it probably is going to grow into something odd, but it doesn't matter. It's all edible. As long as I cut it and it's raw and it has a good taste to it, I cook it. Yes, the avocado tree is gone. Okay, I hear screaming in the background, don't I? It lost all the fruit. And to be honest, it's just a total waste to let it grow in here. It doesn't have any way of setting its roots into the ground. That's not the way an avocado tree really should grow. And when this is all cleaned up, Gary wants to take all this out and grow a lot of maybe squash and different things in here. This is going to be far better than the avocado tree that was growing. And it did come up by seed. A pit got in there. I did not put it in there. This is where the baby rabbits, 2 batches of baby rabbits grew up this spring in here. All this is just wild Swiss chard. This is the one that's green with a red to it, see? Then I've got green in the back. There's some green, and then there's also some very red. This might be the red one. It gets redder as it gets older. So I'll probably collect a lot of seed and just throw it around, but yeah, it was time to let it go. So Gary composted it, and that was it. I know it was really a hard, tough decision, but it was the right decision because it's really a beautiful place to grow in. I could paint this up, clean it up, put pots all around it, do whatever I want. But with the tree there, it made the soil hard as a rock in there, even though it was compost and kitchen scraps and all that. And the reason was it was pulling all the water. It uses a lot of water, avocado trees, and it was pulling away from all the plants. So I would plant zucchini and different things in there, and it would kill the plant because it was drawing everything away. The only things that it didn't draw away from was all the Swiss chard, and then I've got some garlic chives in there. I don't even think there's onions in there. It drew from everything. Sow thistle still grew. So it's about time to turn this into something nice, whether I do it now or in the spring, but it was time. So I'm sorry for anybody that was really, had their heart set on watching it grow, but the fruit did not set. But not all is lost. When they delivered the wood chips a few times, the wood chips they were delivering were from avocado trees. It could be Haas, it could be Fuqua, it could be whatever type it was. But the thing was, this came up this year, and this we're going to keep. So we did put a bird cage over it, so nothing will eat it. Gary said it actually came up on its own in a perfect spot. This couldn't be any better. It's not too close to the edge. And if somebody comes over for a birthday party, we have a lot of my grandkids' birthday parties here, it's in a perfect spot. We have a cage there. We can put a flag there. Nobody will park on top of it. And we'll see what happens. Yes, it's not grafted. I know that. But the thing is, it's in a good spot. It's not bothering anything. And someday, I've been thinking about it, I might do something with this. This is the size of a football field. Right now, we use it for a parking lot when the family has their birthday parties here, the grandkids. But the grandkids are getting older. And one of them's in college who said no more birthday parties. I guess she doesn't want the water slides and the bouncer anymore. Haha. And then the other one's getting older too, so there's kind of one left that's really, really young. And I could do all kinds of stuff one day here. Besides finishing the painting there, which I started doing. This could be really cool. You could make paths and go zigzag and plant up this whole place. I mean, look how big this is. This is flat, level, and it's only being used right now by us as a parking lot. We don't need to use it for anything else. And then we've got this beautiful pepper tree. I've told a story on that, how it almost died when it came back with the wood chips and everything. So there's a lot of options we have for this someday. Right now, no, but we'll leave the avocado tree that I just showed you. I might plant some more trees around here. I think it's about time I start putting trees here. Gary put these here when they were delivering wood chips, so nobody will accidentally drive over the edge. Just kind of a stop. So we'll see what happens. That's the garden tour for today, mid-August. Oh my gosh, and the sun is coming up now and it's sunny. And I know I dragged this on way too long and I didn't want to do it. Gary's bees are doing fine. He's got a tray down there to put water in it. So that's it. So I hope I didn't bore you too much. Things are changing, things are growing. I'm still planting, don't worry. We can, as my daughter told me the other day, well, we can still plant all the way through into winter. It's true, our winter was beautiful last year. It was our spring that was freezing. She's got a garden going. My daughter, actually my granddaughter who is 6 wanted a garden. And what she did is she had Daddy go out there and Daddy and her dug out the garden. And she has trained her daddy to now take care of the garden for her. See how smart the little ones are? But you know what? He loves it. He told me that instead of coming home and working out with weights and doing all this stuff that you're done and you're tired and you know, it's a good workout. He said he found out by going into the garden, he's doing it his way, digging trenches and getting things going. He said he gets a real workout and he gets a reward. He's been picking zucchinis and they've been picking buckets of tomatoes and they love fresh tomatoes. And they've been picking all kinds of stuff. Cucumbers he's been pickling now. This is the way to do it. I mean, if you've got all that energy and you want to dig and you want to do stuff, go for it. And he said the rewards have been unreal. They got a papaya tree from us. They went and bought some banana plants. Gary gave them some bananas. We'll give them whatever else they want. I brought over some tree colored. I'll get them more. That is the true reward, is eating food that's really good for you. And when my daughter said she bought a thing of tomatoes a while back, forgot about it, set it on the counter and found it 3 months later, and they looked as good as the day she bought it. That's when they really started thinking, uh-oh, this is not real good. Well, that's because they're now treated, so the shelf life can go for many, many months. Well, you can't do that with your food from your garden. Your garden, picked fresh, is full of enzymes. Your vegetables and your fruit have enzymes. So when you bring it in, nature says, okay, you're off the plant. Let's get those seeds growing, and then let's break down and let's grow. So when you bring something in, it's going to, as you would say, rot. But it's not rotting, it's going through the natural process of breaking down to grow. And if it's winter and it's cold, it will sit in this little capsule, let's say a tomato, until it's time to break down. When you get things from the store that have been treated, I'm not saying they're all treated, they don't do that because there is no more enzymes in there. They've taken care of that. And you need that for your body too. So I'm quite happy that I'm growing a lot of greens. That's rosemary. I'm really happy that they decided to have a garden because they had an area in their yard that they were not even using. And now they've got a beautiful garden. I bet you it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So with that, have a wonderful day, everybody. And grow something. Get a chair and grow something on a chair. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye.